to finish up these projects today. You want to get these 3 steps done today, and if you don't, you need to figure out how or when you're going to get caught up, because Friday with the tests and the shortened class period, you're not going to have time to really work on your project. So what I'm going to do is kind of review what we've already done on finishing stages, okay, and then I'll show you the last 3 steps. I have them up on the board too, so you guys can see them. All right, so I have my tile here, which I have finished smoothing out using a wet sponge or a damp sponge and a damp paintbrush, okay? So remember, this was a demonstration that I did yesterday. If you do not know how to do this or you don't remember the demonstration, I would get on Canvas and watch that. But remember, too much water is what? Is it a good thing or bad thing? Bad thing, okay? So water is not necessarily a great thing for clay. If you have too much water on your sponge and too much water on your brush, you will destroy your project, okay? And you might find yourself in a situation where you have to do it over again, okay? So pay attention to those demos. So I've already done all of that, okay? I've already smoothed all this. So now all the stuff that I'm gonna basically show you today deals with the bottom of the tile and the side of it, okay? So the top is done. The important thing is that when you do these finishing steps, do not, I'm going to show you what not to do not turn it over and do all of these steps on your tile while it's sitting on top of your table. Because what's going to happen is you're going to indent and smush things on this side, which you don't want to do. So most of what you're going to be doing today is going to require you to hold your tile like this in your hand, okay? So the first thing that you're gonna do, and I have it up on the board, is you're gonna need to carve out any areas that are really thick. And as you guys can see, I've already started doing that. I did this for first period, okay? But I kind of sketched out where I need to carve out the other areas, okay? This is in an effort to basically eliminate some of these really thick areas, because we do have quite a few of them for some of us, especially me, okay? To take some of that thickness away so that we can take some of the risk away when it gets fired. Because those thick areas of the clay could have air pockets stuck in them, okay? Another thing that will happen too is that these thicker areas, like this and this and this, will dry out slower than the thinner areas of my project, causing more problems. So the goal here, if you guys remember at the beginning of this, is that you want clay likes consistency. So if things are different on it, like if there's a part of it that's drier, another part that's a little bit more wet, it doesn't like that. And that's where you're gonna get cracking and breaking happening, okay? So in an effort to just hope that this can dry out consistently, we're gonna carve out some of those thicker areas also too to eliminate the possibility of air pockets being stuck in there, okay? So what I have done, I have lightly sketched with my pencil where I want to carve out, and I'm focusing on the areas where I know I have a lot of additive sculpture, which is mainly where the big circle is and the medium circle, okay? Now, what I recommend that you do is when you go back to your table and you're ready to start the step, again, you can't start this until you smooth out the other side, is I will actually draw on the back of your tile where I think you should dig out a little bit, okay? So I'll do that drawing on there for you to help you figure out where you need to do it, and then you can go from there, all right? So I've already got it kind of drawn on there, all right? We are not going to carve past the edge of the tile. So that's kind of a common theme that we've had with this design, is what we don't want to carve out past the edge. So you can see I kind of created a little border here. I started carving out already. What you want to do is pick a carving tool you feel comfortable with and you think will give you the control that you want. As far as how much to carve out, it can be different for other people. What I recommend that you do is you just carve out a little bit at first, because you can always carve out more. But if you carve out too much, there's really nothing we can do to help you or to fix it, all right? So I recommend just carving out a little bit at first, and then you can gradually take away more if you feel like you need to. Now, as far as what I think is a comfortable amount to take out, is basically you don't want to take out more than like half of the thickness of our base tile, okay? So that's basically like 1/8 of an inch, okay? So no more than half of that. Now, some of you guys may be able to take off a little bit more if you're pretty confident that you have thicker areas that could stand it and have the room for you to carve out more. But for this particular step of the process, it is better to be on the safer side, okay? Because these finishing steps, especially with clay, these finishing stages, even the smoothing out that we did the other day, if you do it wrong and you do too much of any of it, could destroy your project. So you want to be very cautious about what you're doing. And again, just because it's clay doesn't mean it's fixable, okay? So again, the clay is starting to dry out more, and because of that, we're kind of, the window to kind of add pieces to it is closing, because again, you don't want to add really wet clay to clay that's already starting to dry out, okay? So you can see how I've started carving that out. So that's what you're gonna do first, okay? I did have some kids in my first bell who I didn't feel like needed to carve out anything at all, so you might be in that position, all right? All of these little bits of clay here, you guys can take that and you can put it in the dry clay bag to get recycled, okay? All right, so let's pretend that with the magic of television, I have this all carved out where I need it. The next step is to add vent holes to the back, okay? That is where you can see these holes that I've kind of poked into the back, okay? Again, this isn't an effort, okay, to take some of the risk away with some of these thick areas. So these vent holes are gonna be exactly what I'm calling them. It's going to allow any of the moisture that's trapped in the clay, especially when it's in the kiln, to have an exit point, okay? Because we don't want any moisture that's trapped in here to make its own exit point. Because if it does make its own exit point, something on your project's breaking to make that happen. But if we put vent holes in this, okay, then the hope is that we're giving it the adequate amount of escape that it needs to leave our project alone, okay? So basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a needle tool, I have these on my desk, and you're going to poke through the back. Now, here's the tricky part. You do not want to poke all the way through to the other side, okay? Again, if you do, we're running out of that window of opportunity to add any clay to this, okay? It gets to a point where you just can't fix it, okay? So you're just going just deep enough that you're not going through the other side, but you are still doing enough that will give the air and the moisture an adequate escape during firing, okay? So you're just gonna kind of poke holes through the back all over it, okay? So it's gonna be kind of like, it's gonna look poke-dotted on the back. Pretty good, all right? So there's that. So again, that's gonna be the second step, okay? Adding the vent holes. The last step is signing your work, okay? So signing your work is so very important. The way that we're gonna sign these is we're gonna sign them on the side of our tile. Now I had a couple kids, their tiles are kind of thin, so they had to sign it on the back, but for the most of you, you're gonna sign it on the side. The way you do this, I think the best way is to actually use a regular pencil, kind of on the sharper side. Don't do that. And you're gonna basically carve out your name. Now the tricky part is that when you carve your name in, inevitably the clay, those little bits kind of go in and fill your lettering back up. So you wanna do it deep enough, you wanna carve deep enough that you can see your name really well, but you're gonna have to go back and forth through these letters quite often to clean them up to get them to stand out. If you barely skim the surface when you write your name, it's gonna be really hard to see it. So you really do need to kind of dig in there. And then again, you're gonna spend a lot of time cleaning this out. So the way you're gonna sign it is you're gonna put your first initial, you're gonna do your last name, and then your class period. And all you need to do is just the number. So you guys are third period, so you're gonna have first initial, last name, and just the number 3 next to it, all right? And if you're in another class, you're gonna do a different number, all right? But that's how we're gonna sign the work, all right? So after you're done getting your name on there, that's the last step. And then the only thing I have left to show you is how to turn it in then on Friday. Okay? Any questions? All right, that's it.